It's recording. So just a little bit about yourself. Honestly, like I told your secretary Megan, honestly about yourself, how you got into your role, and if you could touch on just your time at Temple a little bit,
Yeah.
and what led you into becoming a fitness business coach and also a strength and conditioning coach or just a coach in general.
Well, usually I start the story a little earlier, and I was a sixth grader that um, was 155 pounds and wanted to play football, and the weight limit to play on the eighth grade team was 140 pounds. And so I had to lose 15 pounds just to be able to play football on the eighth grade team as a sixth grader, to give you some context. And so that was like my first experience with exercise. First experience with exercise was really trying to lose weight to be able to play football. I was the worst player on the team by far, and I got nicknamed the the name Bounce Back Vinny. And I got the name Bounce Back Vinny because I was running into the big sled. Remember the 7-man sled, right? And I went full speed into the sled, and I ran and I hit it, and the spring bounced me back, and I flipped over. And so my nickname for the rest of the year was Bounce Back Vinny. And that was the start of my um, career in fitness, if you will, and my career in football at the same time. I ended up obviously going and having a decent high school career and played football at Temple University. I played for 4 years from 1998 to 2001. And at Temple, I was kind of, I was majoring in business at the time, and I was, but my first love was always the weight room and working out and getting fit and getting strong. And it's just like something I just love to do. And maybe the Temple business people won't like to hear this, but I hated business school. I hated every class. I hated the economics classes. I hated the accounting classes. And I was there because I thought I was going to the NFL. And, you know, I never even had a close of a chance, but, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And so it's kind of weird how I got through this business school. I'm playing football. I'm going to business school. I'm not liking school at all. I'm really just focused on football. My last year, I broke my leg, and it was like a it wasn't career-ending injury, but a season-ending injury, you know. And I was just done. I was just like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. And I started to. Um, I was about 300 pounds. I was offensive lineman, so I was about 300 pounds, and I played. I'm about 220 now, but I went on a tear to lose a ton of weight. And in my quest to lose a ton of weight again, full circle, right? Um, I fell in love with fitness all over again, right? I had loved the strength and conditioning part of it, but I just got the bug where you just you're into it. And I ended up getting a certification called the ISSA certification. I actually got that when I was still at Temple my last year. So I got the certification while I was in business school at Temple. And I was just, all I wanted to do is train people. All I wanted to do is get my cert and just start training people. And I ended up moving to San Diego, and I finished my schooling out there. Um, and I got an internship at a place called Fitness Quest 10, which is now one of the top, known as one of the top gyms in the country. And I got an internship there. Didn't know anything, never trained anybody before, and got an internship there. The guy that ran that place, his name's Todd Durkin. He's like a pretty, well-known celebrity in the fitness world now. He's been on TV shows. He's all over. But when he was getting started, he needed, people to work, and I, just showed up and I said, hey, whatever you need me to do, I'll do. And I worked for 16 hours a day and didn't get paid a dime. It was just like I was just possessed to be able to have a career as a trainer. I was training athletes, training adults, and I did both at that time. And so I did that for about 5 years. I ended up, I founded the NFL Combine Prep Program at that facility, which still runs today, the Combine Program. And what else did I do out there? Founded that and just worked there for 5 years. Became like director of football development. I ended up training, training a lot of NFL athletes. I trained a bunch of San Diego Chargers, a bunch of athletes out there. So I kind of became known as the football guy, probably because I was playing football, or I played football. And I, like you, Samuel, I kind of was at the point right now where I was like, I'm training people. The most money I ever made working over there was like $37,000 a year. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This is good. I like what I'm doing. But if I'm going to have a family and I'm going to want to support a family, then we need to do something else. And the only thing I knew to do was just, all right, let me own a gym. Right. And so I'm from New Jersey originally. And actually, I met my wife who also worked at the same gym. And so we got married, and then we moved back to New Jersey, and we opened up our first gym about a year later. And so that gym still exists. I'm sitting in the gym now. It's called Gabriel Fitness, and it's been going, I think 13 years. 13 years we've been going, and a lot's happened since then. There's been multiple businesses started off the back of the gym, but basically that's kind of the story that led me. Now there's tons more to tell you from when I started to now, but that's basically you know, um, the story of how I got rolling.
That's that's awesome, man. Um, I do have a question, before you continue. During your time in San Diego at Quest,
Yeah.
what was it like you self-taught? Because I have right now that triple
Okay.
IA certification, right? And to get that certification, I thought it was nothing compared to like the CSCS, which I have tried to take and I didn't do so well, and I'm gonna go back and take, right? But while you was at Quest, what type of physiology or science were you pursuing, or was you trying to acquire while you was there?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, when I was there, most of what I learned was very practical knowledge. It was not a lot of exercise science. It was just really a lot of dealing with people and how to deal with people. And I think that's really the secret to here's the secret to being a great trainer. The secret to being a great trainer is, do people want to spend an hour with you? That's it. So the number one training book that people should read is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because if you're boring, right, and no one likes you and no one wants to hang around with you, I don't care what you know, you're not going to be a successful trainer. And so that's like the big thing. Everyone thinks they want to, and I was the same way. Like when I was there, because I didn't have a business degree, so I almost had. When I was at Fitness Quest, I had a business degree, and I was almost like self-conscious because, what are these people going to think? I'm a trainer and I have a business degree. Like, and it was an interesting thing going on in my head about that I wasn't qualified, and I ended up getting my CSCS at when I was there, and study my butt off just as much as I possibly could. There are a lot of pretty good. When I took the test, there's a lot of really good tutorial like quizzes that you could buy and stuff like that. There's a lot of actually help out there to prepare for the test. But I'll be honest with you, CSCS is great, right? But so we're right before I came in here, there was a trainer that was applying for a job, like right before. And one of the last things I look at is what certifications they have. And that's contrary to like what people might think. Like, oh my God, what credentials do you have? How many years of experience do you have? And after doing this for 13 years, I've realized it's yeah, you have to know what you need to know. You have to know the basics so you're not hurting people, that you can get people results, right? But at the end of the day, you know, you got to be a likable person. You got to have a person that has good energy. You got to be a person that people really like and want to be around. I have this guy that's worked for me for 13 years. His name's Big Tom. Okay, he's big. His name's Big Tom because he's 6'9". He's a monster. He's 6'9" and he's like 330, but he carries it real well. He's a monster. He's like the biggest dude you've ever seen. He's huge. And like everybody loves Big Tom. Loves Big Tom. And Big Tom came to me. He had no exercise science degree. He had no certification. He had nothing. He had college football. That's all he had. Right. But when he started training, people freaking loved him. They loved him because he had good energy. He had a good voice. He was confident in what he said, even when he wasn't. And that's kind of the secret sauce. I'm not saying you don't need to be educated. Now, don't get me wrong here, Samuel. I was a nerd beyond nerds. I studied my butt off every day. So don't take what I'm saying as, oh, you don't need to know stuff. No, that can be further from the truth. But I think what I see a lot of is people putting so much focus on what do you know and how much knowledge and how much certifications do you have, and they don't look into things like how you relate with people and how you're developing yourself as a person and how you're growing and how you're able to communicate with people. Like that's all stuff that you don't learn in the CSCS. They don't teach you that stuff. And that's stuff that I learned at Fitness Quest, and that's stuff that I teach here at my gym. And that's really it, right? And it is getting people to um, believe in you, right? And I'll tell you this, there was a lot. I mean, I had, you know, a list of 10 NFL, really high level NFL players, right? And they trained with me. And they trained with me not because I was like the best trainer in San Diego. There's probably a lot of other better trainers in San Diego, but I just could relate to them really, really well. And they trusted me. And so I became so that's what I'm saying. It's like there's got to be a balance of the two. Um, you gotta become a better person, right? You gotta become a more interesting person, and you have to know your stuff, right? You gotta know your stuff. So you gotta go, and whether it's a CSCS, whether I mean I prefer people to get like I like kettlebell certifications, whether someone gets like a strong first or an RKC. I'm RKC certified. I went to Minnesota and got RKC certified way back in the day, where they used to beat the crap out of you for 5 days in a row. Literally, like hands were just like covered in blood, blisters everywhere, and just like they would just kick you when you're down. It was crazy. It was awesome, right? They don't have certs like that anymore. They don't do it like that anymore. Um, so you got to it's got to be you got to be both. You got to know your stuff, and then you got to be a person that people want to hang around. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I love that. I love that. So, I mean, I have a bunch of questions.
Yeah, just shoot them off. Let's go.
So, if you could do it all over again, and this was on the memo, if you could do this all over again, right, what would you change?
Um, so I don't know if I would change much about what I'm doing. Um, I honestly, the biggest change I would make um, would be in my mind. My biggest change would be the things that I thought. And you know, when you first start out in business, something bad happens, and you think like the sky is falling, right? You think like everything's going to come crashing down. And I spent way too much time in high anxiety and high panic mode when I really should have just been like, okay, this is happening for a reason. What am I learning here? And how can I take this thing that happened and learn from it and grow and get better from it? And that's the mindset I now have today. Not that I don't get, pissed off and, you know, that kind of thing, right? But as I've gotten older, I'm 42 now, right? And as I've gotten older, I kind of now I enjoy when shitty things happen, right? Because I know that it is fuel for growth. And that's what you got to realize. Like all of your all the growth, all the progress you make are happening when things go wrong. And when you can train yourself, and I would have trained myself early, and I have a 6-year-old son who I'm training this now. Man, would I've liked to known this at 6 years old, right? But to look at all the challenges and all the problems and not look at them as either personal attacks, and not look at them as that the sky is falling, and not look at them as, it's just to look at it as, man, this was necessary. This was necessary because I'm going to take this and I'm going to be stronger and I'm going to know more, and I'm probably going to be at some point be able to help someone else through this period of time. So if anything I would change, it's more it would be my mindset. It was to be the way I think, because that is everything in business. The way you think is everything in business. And I led 50 gym owners. So you know that I also own a consulting company. So I led 50 gym owners through the pandemic. No one knew what to do, including me. It was the most craziest time ever. Everyone was just like, Vince, what do we do? Vince, my gym's closed. What do I do? And I had to figure it out. It was crazy. It was nuts. But there was one thing that I couldn't do. And the one thing I couldn't do was panic. Because you never make good decisions when your heart rate is the highest in the room. And so what I had to train these guys to do, because they're the leader of their business, their staff's looking at them, their staff's like, what do I do? What am I doing? Am I going to have a job or not? And their clients are like, well, what are we doing? Are we going to train at home? Or are we not going to Zoom? And I said, the number one thing you need to do is stay calm and not freak out, not panic, because that's a recipe for disaster. So I guess the answer to the question is really, and I am so grateful, man. I am so grateful. I got up at 4 o'clock this morning and I went right to Starbucks, which it's in a hotel, so Starbucks wasn't open till 6. And so I went in the lobby of the hotel and I was just writing, and I'm writing books, and I'm just like, every day I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like it's really awesome what I get to. Doesn't mean don't have challenging days. Doesn't mean I don't have hard days. Doesn't mean days where I come home like today sucks, right? But I've been able to create a lot of freedom for myself in my life, and I think that's probably the thing that of why people hire me, is they see that I've created that freedom for myself as a gym owner, right? I'm not some consultant that came out of the sky and says, oh, do this with your gym, do that with your gym. No, I am them. I'm them. I'm G-Man, just a few years older, right? And so they look at that. And again, I drive an old pickup truck because I choose to. Like, I'm not like, flashy by any means, but I have complete autonomy over my life, complete control. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think that's probably the big thing I try to teach them, is like that your gym is designed to give you that life. Your business is not designed, yes, you want to help people 100%, that's a given. But at the end of the day, for you, your business needs to be built to give you the life that you want. And last time I checked, no gym owner wants to work 80 hours a week. And the problem is a lot of them do. And that tends to burn. It's a really high rate of burnout in this industry. Huge rate of burnout. And the biggest reason why people burn out is they don't become business owners. So there's the progression, right? You're the trainer, and in the trainer, and there's burnout in the trainer too. I've seen it here, right? But you're the trainer, and then the trainer turns into the gym owner, But the problem is the gym owner never grows out of being the trainer, and they run the gym like they're a trainer instead of a business owner or an entrepreneur. And that's when they usually hit the wall, and that's when they can't go home and have dinner with their kids, and that's when they, you know, start not enjoying the process of it. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Hey, I'm just so happy to hear you touch on a few things that kind of resonate with me. Um, I was gonna ask you, some business questions, but just
Yeah,
based off what you just said, I want to ask you, what are some self-care things that you practice in the sense of like meditation, journaling,
yeah, yep, good.
gratitude? Because it sounds like you practice a lot of gratitude, and then I also want you to touch on the aspect of financial freedom as well too, and how in your pursuits, in your pursuit of that, how you kind of achieve that. Because I feel as if like a lot of people our age, they seek out millions, and they seek out the being rich and being wealthy, but I feel as if that's not necessarily what we should be what we should be chasing. We should be chasing our dream in the sense to be free, essentially.
Is the guy that has, $5 million in the bank that has to work 90 hours a week and has shitty health, is that rich? I don't think so. So I look at being rich as, you have your health, right? You have happiness, you have good relationships, and you have freedom, freedom of time, and freedom of money. Right? And freedom of money, just means that, you know, you can buy whatever you want, right? And that's whatever I want. It's like I don't really need much. I'm like, I want to make sure I can buy all the supplements I need. I want to make sure that I never like can't get a massage every week. I want to make sure that I can shop at Whole Foods whenever I want. Like that's rich, like to me, right? I don't need 10 houses all over the country. Wouldn't go, right? Um, so self-care is crucial. It's a great question, and I think that the burnout part of it. It's very hard to self-care your way out of burnout. So I think that there's not, you can do all the self-care you want in the world, but if you're still working 80 hours a week and you're stressed to the gills, it's like, you know, I was gonna say a weird example, but I'm not. You know what I mean, right? Um, I don't know whether like this is, yeah, I guess this is college kids, so I got to tame it down. I usually curse all the time at my, I'm holding it together, great. Um, it's funny. I just taught a seminar, and my kids were there. My daughter's 8 and 9, and they're in the back, and I curse like a sailor during seminars because it brings the emotion out. And my one daughter's in the back, and she's writing down how many curse words I was saying throughout the whole seminar. And at the end of the seminar, she came up to me, she gave me a piece of paper with all the curse words, and she wrote them down on the paper. And I'm just like, oh gosh. But self-care is huge. I, you said it, journaling, meditation. I do both. I have meditated. I wouldn't say every day. I have missed days here and there, but it's been a regular practice since I'd say 2014 for me, maybe 2013. So I mean, not 8, 9 years, something like that. I started with just a basic app called Headspace, real basic, and then I got a a certification in TM, which is called Transcendental Meditation, which is what like a lot of famous people do. It's essentially you go and you get a mantra, and they teach you how to do it. That's, I feel like everyone should do that in their life. It's you do it once, you spend like 3 days with them, and you get a mantra, and then the mantra is yours for life. So it's it's pretty good, and I've experienced a lot of stuff. I bought my own neurofeedback machine called Neuroptimal. So I like hook electrodes up to my head to improve brain function. Um, I journal. I wouldn't say I journal every day, but I journal. I always journal in cursive because cursive writing lights up the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So I always write when I journal. I always write whenever I handwrite anything. It's always in cursive. Always in cursive. Um, it's a big unknown thing, and a lot of people don't know about it. They just think, oh, cursive writing, it looks better or whatever. No, it's like gold for your brain. Um, and I would say journaling is like it's like therapy. I mean, you're just releasing, the thoughts and minds, and it's pretty crazy because my dad passed like 2 weeks ago, and I was able to journal every day, like through the whole process, and it was like one of the most like incredible experiences to be able to process his death through journaling. And in addition to journaling, I also was able to write a bunch of different emails to my list, to my email list, and to talk about my dad and talk about what I learned from him and talk about thank you and talk about all this stuff. But it's like I don't understand how people go through life without doing it. There's a quote by Socrates that said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." And when you're journaling, you're like you're examining yourself, you're checking yourself. You're like, how do I really feel about this? Or why do I feel this way? And I have found through journaling, through meditation, through therapy, a lot of peace in mind, a lot of peace in my life. Not without a lot of hard work, right? Not without a lot of hard work. Um, from processing all those things. So I think self-care is not just a thing to do to make you feel better, right? I think self-care makes you a better human being because self-care allows you to think about things differently. It allows you to challenge your own mind of how you're thinking about things. It allows you to vent on yourself and to check yourself. So um, all forms of self-care, I think, is personal development, really. And a lot of people say it's like, okay, yeah, it's good and you should do it, and you should. But at the end of the day, it's really um, about seeing what you're all about and seeing what you're made of as a person. So I'm big on the self-reflection stuff. I think it's important. It's not without work. It takes discipline, time to do it. Um, but I wouldn't change that.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're
Well,
muted. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna open the floor up to everybody else to see if they have any questions. I've been asking a lot of questions, and I don't want to be selfish. So, Issa, if you have any questions, I know Sean, his mic is muted, and he's having technical difficulties, so he won't be able to ask any questions. But we also had one of our former e-board members, Mert, hop on. So, Mert, if you're available and you want to ask any questions, go ahead and shoot. I guess not.
Looks like it's just you, Samuel.
Hey, man, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. So we can shift the gears a little bit to just some business questions.
Yeah.
So I know in the aspect, of having a business, there's a lot of controversies that you face, and you touched on that. You touched on that a little bit earlier in the sense of just being able, in my opinion, from what you said was you being able to weather the storm and like kind of look forward towards like I don't want to say catastrophes, but kind of look forward towards like problems so you can be able to learn from them. Can you touch on that just a little bit more?
So there's a concept called amor fati, which is a concept in Stoicism. And if you haven't read some of the there's a book by Marcus Aurelius called Meditations, but the guy that your audience would probably enjoy is a guy named Ryan Holiday, who's written a bunch of really good books on Stoicism. He's doing brilliant work, young guy. And doing. Do you have his books back there? Oh, very good. What you got? Obstacles away. And he talks about yeah, very good. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, good for you, man. That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So amor fati is something he talks about a lot, and actually I wear this necklace, and it's basically just says amor fati on it, and what it means is love of fate. And amor fati is an attitude where you look at all the things that happen to you in your life as good or necessary, and start to think about that. If what happens to you in life and business, if we stay on business, and you look at something and something happens and you have a client come in and someone gets hurt on the floor, or you have a trainer that quits last minute or something, your amor fati mindset, your thinking process keeps you calm, and then you have a much better way to work through challenges and problems with a much clearer mind and a much clearer head, and you'll be less reactive and you'll make better decisions. But also you won't let everything penetrate you. I look at people, and a lot of people go through life like very emotional, right? Very emotional. And I was one of those people, to be honest with you. I was one of those people, and I have trained myself to be much more stoic. I've trained myself to use these skills, and the quality of my life has improved dramatically because I have that mindset. So that's basically, one of the things you just got. It's like, so I'm writing my leadership book right now. So the book I'm writing is called The Ultimate Guide to Leadership for Gym Owners. And the opening chapter is leading yourself. And the number one thing you need to do to lead yourself is to be able to be productive through adversity. Because there's not a business owner in the world that's not going to have challenges. It's not going to have problems. Stuff's going to come up and stuff's going to happen. And how you handle that stuff means everything. And the other part is people are watching you, right? Your staff is watching you. So they're watching the way you react to certain situations. And the business, I found the business takes on the personality of the owner. So if you really think about it, if the owner's anxious and stressed out all the time, well, the business is going to be, the trainers are going to be anxious and stressed out all the time. And then the clients are going to be anxious and stressed out. Versus if the owner is, relaxed and, calm and confident, then the trainers will be relaxed, calm and confident, right? It's just usually the leader of the business is the one that sets the tone for the organization. And so you don't want to set the tone of freak out. Freaking out is never a good thing, especially in a pandemic. You just can't do it. And I had many conversations with these guys, never Giancarlo, because he did a good job during the pandemic. But some of these guys they're panicking. And I'm just like, dude, calm down. It's okay. You're not going to be living in a box on the street in Philadelphia. All right. Maybe you'll make a little less money this month. It's okay. Like it's going to be okay. And so that's the mindset that I developed. And it doesn't mean you're just passive to everything. It doesn't mean you don't care about stuff. It just means you don't let things get to you, and you're able to work through them in your mind better. And so I just feel like it's to answer your question in terms of overcoming adversity in business, you need to have tools, and that's one of them. The second one is who you hang out with, right? And your peer group, essentially. So I have a really good tight-knit peer group, close peer group and people that I look for advice and counsel when things are challenging, things are tough. And that gives me confidence to know that I have those people that I can call on. That's one of the reasons why the mastermind is so important, because the mastermind is 50 gym owners that they call on each other to help them, in addition to me. So that your peer group is, I think the quote is you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with most, right? So if you hang around with shitheads all the time, like, you're probably going to be a shithead. So you want to hang around with people that are funny, and you want to hang around with people that are successful. You want to hang around with people that are motivated and disciplined, right? The guy that is my head coach on the mastermind, a guy named Joe Hashi, he is like, there's a mountain in Colorado called the Manitou Incline, and it's basically 1 mile straight up a mountain, and it's stairs. It's 1 mile up and down. And, he goes and gets up in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, runs up this hill and comes down. And half the guys that came out to mastermind couldn't even do it once. And Joe's like, "Hey, I'm doing something cool." I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm going to go do the Manitou Incline 13 times in a row." And he's like, "Yeah, it's a marathon, because it's a mile up, mile back, right? 13 times, 24 miles in less than 24 hours." And he did it in like 22 hours. And like, he's doing crazy stuff like that. Like, that's like the kind of person I want to be around. Like I want to get fired from that. I'm going to get motivated from that. I want to hang around people that are going to think differently, that are going to, challenge my thinking. And so that's another big one of helping you overcome adversity and challenges. Another one is business coaches. Like, I have a business coach. I've had a business coach for a long time. Even though I am a business coach, I have a business coach. So I think that's a really important concept to know, is who you have access to is very important. So I'm not saying books and podcasts are great, but there's nothing like being able to pick up the phone and call someone. I have a friend of mine, a guy that I befriended, a guy named Ari Weinswick, who owns a $70 million food business in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's one of the best businesses in the world. It's been written all over the place. And he and I have become friends. And at any point in time, I can call Ari and talk to him about business. And it's better than any education. It's better than any MBA I can get. It's better than any business course I could take. It's better than any book I can read, to pick up the phone and call Ari. So your relationships are crucial in this journey, to help you. So I've talked about this. I've talked about amor fati. I've talked about being calm, under pressure, and not letting things, get to you. I've talked about your peer group. The other one is having immunity to criticism. And there's a great book called The 4 Agreements, and one of the 4 agreements is don't take anything personally. And your level, as you climb in the world, the number of people that will not want to see you succeed grow. And as you climb in the world, there's more people that will be taking shots at you. I'll never forget the first time someone responded to one of my emails and literally said "F you" to me in one of my emails. I was just like, "I'm just writing an email, dude." I'm like, calm down. So your immunity to criticism is very, very important. It doesn't mean you ignore feedback, right? If Joe Hashi, the guy I talked about before, came to me and gave me feedback, I would listen. But if just some random person wants to tell me what I'm doing wrong, their feedback is irrelevant. And there's a great, you should have your listeners Google this, Howard Stern, immunity to criticism, or Howard Stern, feedback. Howard Stern, feedback is irrelevant. And it's a clip where some caller, oh my God, it's hilarious. It's a clip, and I play it for my guys all the time. It's a clip where someone calls Stern up. It's like, hey Howard, I wanna give you some feedback on the show. And Howard goes, not necessary. And he's like, what? What do you mean? He's like, I have some feedback. I want to tell you. I'm one of your listeners. I want to give you some feedback. He's like, I was like, I don't need your. He's like, I don't want your feedback. It's like your feedback is irrelevant. And he just kept saying, your feedback is irrelevant. Your feedback. It was just like a perfect example. I was like, all right, I don't care what you say because what you say is not going to get me down, and I will continue to move forward no matter what you decide to say. So I think there needs to be a little bit of that, you know, swagger that you develop. Otherwise, you're just going to get derailed by every little thing that happens. That was a hard stop for you to think of your next question. I'm really proud of you for having the Stoic book. That's great.
And I've also what do you call it, listened to the Four Agreements on Audible.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's a good one as well too. I do have one question just to finish off. I will open up the floor again to everybody else that's here to see if they have any questions they would like to ask. Okay. How do you feel about, the saying, people talk about this a lot, they'd be like, leaving your hometown, is kind of like a key trick. I don't know exactly what I'm saying. I don't know if I'm exactly saying the phrase right, but it's kind of like a key trick into like growth in the sense of when you're developing as somebody coming up in their 20s or just somebody young. How do you feel about that?
Like literally leaving your hometown?
Like, yeah, little like I guess people talk about it in the sense of like challenging yourself to face more adversity, but I don't necessarily know. I feel as if personally, I don't know why you would want to leave your hometown when when you have everything you need here to help you flourish, but some other people think otherwise. So I just want to know your opinion about it.
Yeah, I left my hometown and started my career, 3,000 miles away across the country, and then moved back to my hometown and started my business there. Was it helpful? Yeah, it was helpful. It was a strategic decision because I had tons of relationships prior that I had built up that were very, very helpful in that. So I think it's, I don't know. It's like, is it, you know, not spreading your wings? I think it's could be, especially for a community-based business, it could be just a smart business decision to do it. So I think that you're either going to have probably success or you're not. It's going to be based on you and what you work through and what you grow, not based on if you started your business in your hometown or you didn't start your business in your hometown. Like it's just it probably gives you an advantage in the beginning a little bit, but I think after that, you're still going to face the same challenges as someone that's doesn't know anybody yet. And I just think too that like if you don't start in your hometown, you just got to learn and get better at marketing, right? And that's something we really didn't discuss and something I teach all the time. If you're going to own a business, you have to understand and learn marketing. Like on a high level, you have to understand marketing. You have to understand what needs to happen to be able to acquire new customers because the only given in business is that not everyone's going to stay forever, especially in the fitness industry. There's not a chance, not a gym in the world that someone, that they never lost a client. And if you want to continue to grow, you need to be able to reload. So if there's one skill that I try to teach people immediately, it's marketing. It's learning how to write words that sell. It's learning how to make videos. It's learning how to um, really understand how to acquire customers. That is like almost everything in business. It's huge.
Thank you. It looks like everybody left, but it's just me and you. But
It's
no,
all
it's
good,
just
dude. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. So you let me know what else I can answer for you.
no, that's all I wrote. And you've answered all of them. I kind of shifted gears a little bit just based off how the conversation was going. I had other questions I wanted to ask you. Marketing was one of them, but as the conversation was just going on, and you was talking, I just had other questions spurt in my mind that I just wanted to
Yeah,
ask you. That I felt like
cool.
was more, interesting to me specifically. No, but I just wanted to thank you for coming on. I am going to stop recording right about now.